Oh, what's good, everybody? Welcome into the Coach and Company podcast. We apologize for the delay. A lot of platforms are down, but I believe Twitter is back up and running. So we are live on YouTube and also on the X. Now, we do this show to support the morning show. If you missed any of Coach and Company today, you can always go back and watch it on demand. I encourage you to do that. Our picks are starting to ramp up. We had a winning day yesterday. Big Tommy C on our primetime show as well hit both of his. So we had a ton of good mojo yesterday. Today, we had the morning show. We've got Off the Ropes in the afternoon on Sirius XM, but also tonight we will have a premium pop-up. If you're not a premium member yet, I would encourage you to do so. It's literally $7 a month, and it pays for itself in one live bet. And plus, we have a ton of fun. Just ask any of our other premium members that are in the chat all the time. Now, the man who joins me almost every single day is Mikey P. And Mikey P, we started the Week 12 look ahead today in the NFL, and the next 2 weeks could be gigantic for you and your Bears fandom, but it's not going to be easy, big dog. How are you feeling about the chance to enter into the elite of the National Football League?
Well, to break it down for those who don't know, Coach, if the Bears defeat the Steelers this week and the Buccaneers somehow defeat the Rams, if Matthew Stafford plays like a 38-year-old should play in the NFL and not a 28-year-old, that sets up Black Friday Amazon showdown between the Bears and the Eagles for the number one seed. Also, go
Wow.
Cowboys to beat the Eagles this week. Let's just make it easier for me, please.
Well, that's exactly where we're going to start, is coming off of Monday Night Football. And you know how much I can't stand naysayers on sports shows and on betting shows. I can't stand when people go, oh, they suck, or that game's going to suck, or whatever. And so I always like to look at it from an analytical point of view, because all I saw last night after the Cowboys beat the Raiders by 17 was, yeah, but it's just the Raiders. Oh, they're going to get their asses kicked over here. How about we talk about the positives? That Dak Prescott went out and threw for 268 yards and 4 touchdowns, which is a record on Monday night for a Dallas Cowboy quarterback. Or George Pickens proved he's an elite wide receiver. 9 catches, a $144 and a touch. CeeDee Lamb should have had 2 touches, had 1, catch it for Big Tommy C. There's a lot to like, but they also brought in defensive reinforcements. And the defense, at least last night, played pretty well. We'll find out this week against another offense that is struggling just how good that Dallas defense truly is.
Quinnen Williams looks the part of a guy. It's funny when you start to put the pieces together. That's why I hate overreactions and negativity to why in God's green earth would the Cowboys trade Micah Parsons. Well, that's before the season starts. We have a whole season to get through. And credit to Jerry Jones. He doesn't get enough of it sometimes because he kind of is his own worst enemy. Quinnen Williams looks like a great acquisition by, and I know it's only one game, but Quinnen Williams, the test will be done against the Philadelphia Eagles, who have a banged-up offensive line. So I loved it, Coach. And another storyline, Javonte Williams. Here's a running back that nobody wanted on the free agent market. Dallas gave him a deal, and he's paying off their dividends with his performance this year.
Big time paying off. So when we look at it, the next 3 weeks for the Dallas Cowboys, they are going to be the weeks and the games that will decide their entire season, because they play Philadelphia, they play the Lions, and they play Kansas City. 2 of those 3 are at home. And so when you look at Dallas at 4-5-1, they're currently in the 6th spot, and there are 3 wild card spots. So Seattle 7-3, Green Bay at 6-3, San Francisco 7-4, and Detroit 6-4, and Carolina 6-5. But we know a lot of those teams, specifically Seattle, San Francisco, will cancel each other out. So if Dallas can get on a run, I think if they would get to 10-6-1, I think that would be good enough for a wild card spot. But the last 4 are very winnable. These next 3, how important do you think they are?
Each week is going to be a must-win for the first 2 weeks. I think they can afford to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. It's out of conference. It doesn't really hurt them as much. If you can beat not only a division rival in the Philadelphia Eagles, but possibly knock around the Detroit Lions, which Dan Campbell's doing a great job of doing it himself. I think the Cowboys have a real shot, but each week for the next 2 weeks is a must win. Desperate times will call for desperate measures for this Dallas Cowboys team.
No doubt. No doubt. So we talked today, if you guys want, we previewed 5 big games this week in the National Football League. But let's move over to college now, because tonight the third college football rankings come out. And this is going to be a fascinating one. It really, really is, because we had Alabama lose at home to Oklahoma, right? And right now you've got Ohio State, Indiana undefeated, Texas A&M undefeated. And so to me, regardless of what happens, let's use Indiana for an example. We just had a huge Indiana merch drop come out today. If you're watching right now, go to our merch store. We'll also be putting out the link, all kinds of sayings and fun stuff like that. But they have one game left against Purdue. And if they beat Purdue, no matter what happens, they get in. If they get into the Big Ten championship and lose, they still get into the playoffs. So they could secure some spots before we even play in these championship games. But other teams don't have that luxury. Texas A&M, for example, 2 left. I doubt Samford with an M is going to beat Texas A&M, but hey, that's why they play the games, right? But then they have at Texas. Zeno said on Monday he still believes that if Texas beat Texas A&M, that they will still get at a three loss team, and I don't believe that to be true.
I don't either. I also don't believe Texas has a fighting chance against Texas A&M. You know, the last few weeks I've been super high on Texas A&M, and I will acknowledge the fact that South Carolina nearly beat them. But that's why the game is played for what? 4 quarters and not 1 half. Just because you have a 30-3 lead does not mean you get to take your foot off the gas pedal if you're South Carolina. There's a reason why Texas A&M is a top 3 team in the country and why South Carolina is unranked and struggling. So I think Texas A&M handles Texas, honestly.
So, and I do too. So they'll be undefeated going into the SEC championship game. And I'll be honest, because everything changes all the time. I have not even looked, because now when you look at the rankings, it's all just 1 through 16. Is it just the top 2 teams record-wise that go to the SEC championship, or is it still East-West?
I believe it's just the top 2 records. As
Okay,
far as
so
I know. Yeah, I believe they cut all that.
all the East-West stuff
Yeah,
out. Okay,
yeah.
great. And I know that they've redone the schedule, so the next few years, some teams don't play each other for a few years in a row because of having 16 teams. So when you look at it, right now, Oklahoma is 8-2, 4-2 in conference play. Texas is 7-3 overall, 4-2 in conference play. Alabama is 8-2 overall, 6-1 in conference play, and then Ole Miss. And they've got their own drama. And to me, this is just Lane Kiffin messing with people. Why would you, if you're the head coach at Ole Miss and you know you're the number 1 choice for 3 or 4 different schools, and Florida and LSU in your same conference are 2 of those, why would you fly to Baton Rouge? And the report was so they could look around Baton Rouge. You can't send the wife. You can't send the kids. Report back. You're going to buy something in the gated community. You're going to be on campus 95% of the time. Why would you take a private jet in the middle of the season when your team's a playoff team to be seen in Baton Rouge? Explain that to me.
I can't explain it to you. It's even further than what the Pittsburgh Panthers head coach did last week, saying the Notre Dame game didn't matter. When do coaches realize, while they are very important to their programs, the program, not themselves. These college coaches, only Bill Belichick was a brand. Only Chapel Bill was a brand. These college coaches, we give players all this flack for going in the transfer portal year after year after year. If I'm a college player right now, I look at these past 2 storylines that we've talked about, and I go, what's wrong with me going school to school? These coaches are doing it. They're not even waiting until the end of the season. They're already looking at the next opportunity. So it's becoming uglier and uglier as a whole. And I think college needs to kind of get a rein on it.
Well, they need to change, and they just changed the portal dates. But I heard the announcer say the other day, yeah, he's number 1 on Florida, but he still has to worry about these next couple of games. And he might not even be around for the playoffs. Can you imagine, Mikey, having a team that's good enough to win a national championship in the same conference that you're looking to leave and go to. And instead of building, and again, Ole Miss or Mississippi, not everybody wants to live in Mississippi, but when you're making $10 million plus, you get the best house, the best neighborhood, the best of everything. And so why in the world would you not want to build a legacy somewhere? Lane Kiffin, for all of the that I love about him, he's always been, I want the prettier girl. Just let me go to the prettier girl. And at some point, you got to be with the pretty girl. And you got to say, this is who I'm going to be married to. If he goes to Florida LSU, that's got to be the last stop. He can't keep doing this because that's why these stories continue to go, because he doesn't shut them down. He never shuts them down until he gets a $3 or $4 million raise.
It's super unfortunate, too, because like you said, Coach, $10 million in Mississippi, I'm pretty sure you are the governor of Mississippi at that point. I don't understand why Lane Kiffin – Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, for my era of life, are the two most historic football coaches. You know what they didn't do? And I understand early in their career, they kind of bounced around. But you know what they didn't do? When they started having success, they didn't look for the prettier girl, as you so put it, Coach. They stayed and they said, come try and beat me. Come try and beat me as the coach of the New England Patriots. Come try to beat the Alabama Crimson Tide. Self-pride, self-respect, legacy. It's all about the dollar. You can't take it with you. You cannot take the money with you. The legacy you can keep forever. That's why they build statues at universities and outside football stadiums.
And the last thing I will say about this is that if you walk into a recruit's home and you're a guy that has been there for a long period of time, it's why they give these guys 6-7 year deals. So they're there for the entire time that you're getting a top recruit to come play for you. And you can honestly look them in the eye. If he goes to LSU or to Florida before the playoffs, what kid is going to want to go play for him? Because you're going to be like, Coach, you left those kids on a national. There's no worse thing than that. There's nothing you could do worse than that, than tell a kid, I'm your coach, and then in the most important games, when most people never get to play for a national championship, and you left them, it's a bad look, and it's just a bad thing to do. I don't care what the situation is. I really don't. He's already making north of $10 million. He's not going to make that much more to go to LSU. He's not. Now, speaking of college football spots, Virginia Tech, very interesting decision here. And this is where the media gets in a little bit of trouble because they love the narrative of, well, there's $160 million in buyouts this year with all the coaches that have been fired. We know that Brian Kelly has refused a settlement offer. And what that is he was owed $53 million. So what LSU wanted to do, and every place is allowed to do this, keep paying him out for the next 2 weeks, getting regular paychecks and pay out $50 million. Or we'll offer you this much to get it all right now. And that's how they try to not have to pay 50 and pay 30. He said, nope, I'm good. I'm young. I'll wait for those 2-week checks. So the buyouts are not always what they seem. So James Franklin just agreed to be the new head coach of Virginia Tech. And his buyout, there's a big story, over $40 million to leave Penn State. We find out that the settlement offer was $9 million. And that will now be finalized because it's called an offset when you go to another place to work. 2 questions here. First one, why does Virginia Tech want James Franklin when you had everybody else? It's an ACC school. It's a big-time conference. It's a Power 4. They've got a direct line to the college football playoff. Why James Franklin when he's never been able to win the big game?
The question, and there is no answer, Coach, because James Franklin, all he is, the only thing you can stand on is say, well, he's going to help the transfer portal. He's going to help the recruits. What about what those players are thinking? He never won anything at Penn State. When there were big games, as you mentioned, they came up short. The only hope is, wow, well, we got a big name head coach. We got a lot of money getting pumped into this football program. Maybe because we're in the ACC. So you took a mid-level coach in comparison to all the top coaches in college football, brought him to a mid-level conference with all due respect to the ACC, and you said, maybe we're just good enough to get in, maybe. I don't like the hire. I don't like James Franklin, and I don't like Virginia Tech's future.
They've had a rough last several years. I really thought that they were going to go after Beamer's son at South Carolina because he was the legend at Virginia Tech. And then South Carolina has been a disaster the last few weeks. If they would have hired Beamer right now after what happened at Texas A&M with the whole fist pumping in the crowd at halftime, what a bad look. That would have been the video everybody would have. And I'm not saying it cost him the job. He's always said, I want to stay at South Carolina. It's the SEC versus the ACC. If you're James Franklin, and I've had people ask me this so many times, Coach, why don't coaches go just sit out and collect their money? And I referred to it, Mikey, it's like the media business. I worked with every fired coach in America when I was at ESPN. Every last one. We'd go out to dinner, we would talk, and to a man or to a woman, it is not about the money. Because if you lose for example, and his name, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. He was a coach of the Washington Wizards, Minnesota Timberwolves. Loved him to death. He passed away a few years ago. Flip Saunders. Thank you. Flip Saunders. So Flip Saunders was owed $4 million by the Washington Wizards. And he gets fired, immediately comes to ESPN. So I remember asking him when we went out to dinner, I said, why wouldn't you just go home and collect that money? And he said, because I love to coach. And if you sit out in this business, then people forget about you. No matter how good you are, they forget about you. So it's worth it to me to do 30 days on ESPN and stay. And sure enough, he does the 30 days. ESPN wanted him to do more. He's like, nope, I'm good. I got what I needed. And Minnesota brings him back because you get to see how good his mind is by how he talks about the game on ESPN. Media is the same way. If you lose a job, you still get paid out. But if you're off TV for 6 months, it's like out of sight, out of mind, Mikey. So I understand why James Franklin would want to get right back in the game. Most people at home, they can't figure that out because they're like, man, I'm going to get 9, 10, 15, $20 million. I'm straight for a couple of years. He's not an accountant, right? He's not working at McDonald's. It's not like a job he hates. He loves it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's the confidence side of things. I look at Mike Malone. You're talking basketball coaches. Mike Malone just announced he's going to be a part of the new NBA countdown crew that goes live, I think, this week. Mike Malone is one hell of a coach who should have never been fired from the Denver Nuggets. Now, they're okay without him because they have one of the top players in all of basketball throughout the world in Nikola Jokic. But Mike Malone, I could probably think of 5, 10 NBA franchises that would love Mike Malone. You give him 30 days. Give him 60 days on ESPN. Someone's going to go, I think we need that guy. I think, and confidence, not only keeping your name out there, but you might look back and go, especially in the NBA, coach, we saw last year, a lot of coaches got fired towards the end of the season, right before the playoffs, when their teams were in the hunt. So if you're a coach going, wait, I had a chance to get my team over the hump and into the playoffs, why was I fired before I had that chance? And now you're sitting at home, you may lose all your confidence. So I respect coaches for getting back into it. Just not a fan of James Franklin. That's all.
There you go. And guess what? Not everybody's a fan of us. But Mikey, if I'm not a fan of somebody, do you know something I'm not going to do? I'm not going to take the time out of my day to go and watch their show because they're entertaining. So to Mikey in the chat, who calls the Bears dog shit, to Mikey in the chat that says, y'all don't know ball, you're here watching our show. And I'll be happy to come watch your. Oh, wait, you probably don't have one. Oh. Well, we've got another show this afternoon on Sirius XM. You're happy to watch, and I'll watch. Oh, no, you probably don't have one. We also have a premium show tonight. You're welcome. Probably don't have that either. Mikey, be better. We'll completely engage with you, but you don't need to be nasty. You don't be telling we don't know ball. I've been doing this 25 years. Mikey's been doing it for double-digit years as well. You may not like the teams we're talking about, but we know ball. We know ball. So I'm telling you right now, I will block your ass straight out of there if you don't get right. We're very, very, very equal opportunity trash talkers. We'll make it trash talk. All right. I think we'll end on that. I like that ending right there. Do not forget, SiriusXM later today, 2 to 4 Eastern time. Mikey, I hope I see you there. Then tonight, premium pop-up at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, live betting college football. And me and Mikey have a showdown. And it's going to be popping off right at the start of the show, Pistons and the Hawks. Until then, Mikey, have a great day. Producer man behind the scenes. This has been the Coaching Company Podcast. and we will see you tomorrow.